Hi, welcome to Building Blocks, the cooking show where you learn to make your own ingredients. I'm your host, Kim Sacca, and with me today is my good friend and Italian cook, Vinny Passeri.
Hi, Kim.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, what are we going to be making today?
Today we're going to be making Sunday gravy. When I was growing up as a kid, my mom and my grandma, they would always make a nice red sauce to have with dinner. And we'd make pasta, we'd make manigot, we'd make lasagna, all these different things. And every Sunday we'd make what we call Sunday gravy. Now Sunday gravy is very different from a normal red sauce, because a normal red sauce could just be tomatoes and some basic spices and ingredients. Sunday gravy, really at the heart of it, is meat. And it's not necessarily a meat sauce, but it has meat as part of the sauce to give it that extra flavor. So I tend to think of a meat sauce as more of, using ground beef. But we're not going to be using ground beef today in our sauce.
Great. What kinds of meat do you have for us?
Well, today, the basis of our Sunday gravy, we're going to have a pound of freshly chopped veal, spare ribs, and Italian sausage.
Excellent. And you'll be using canned tomatoes?
Yes. So the tomatoes I usually try and buy Italian brand. We have Cento. I tend to get the whole peeled tomatoes, because whole peeled tomatoes, I like to actually chop them myself. So I use a blender and I lightly chop them inside the blender. And we also have a little bit of tomato paste as well that we'll be using in the sauce.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like the perfect ingredient.
Yeah, I'm very excited. And of course, today's Sunday, so how appropriate to make the Sunday gravy. So should we get started?
Yes.
All right. So Sunday gravy, the way that we start is we grill the meats first. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab a large pot. This is a nice stock pot right here. We're going to put a little bit of olive oil inside the pan. Okay. About 2 or 3 teaspoons. And okay, we're going to put it on medium-high heat, and we're going to start off by grilling the spare ribs. Now, when we cook the spare ribs and all the other meat, we don't necessarily want to cook it all the way through. What we want to do is just brown it, because when we're actually making the sauce is going to cook for about 2 hours. We're going to let it simmer for about 2 hours, and the meat will cook inside the sauce. So we just want to lightly brown this, and it'll take, about, depending on your stove and how hot it gets, about 5 to 10 minutes for the meat to cook. So we're going to start off with the spare ribs. All right, so our spare ribs are browning. I like to use pork spare ribs because I think they got a little bit more flavor than beef spare ribs. So I'm going to let them cook a little bit longer. Right now they're just starting to brown. And the reason why we cook it inside the pot is we want all the juices from the meat to stay at the bottom of the pot, and we're going to use that as part of the sauce to really give that sauce that extra flavor. What really Sunday gravy is all about. And a lot of the bits from the meat are going to stick to the pan and just make it that much more delicious. Okay, so our pound of ribs is just finishing up being browned. So we're going to take those ribs and we're going to put them in a bowl, because we're going to come back to these later. And as you can see, I just lightly browned them. I didn't cook them all the way through. And we'll just set these aside. Okay, so we're going to move on to the Italian mild sausage now. So I'm just going to throw these in the pan, and the same thing with the ribs. We're just going to brown these lightly.
We don't have to add any more oil now.
Nope. We've got a lot of the fat from the pork, and all the flavoring from the pork in there as well. Keep all of that inside the pan, and the grease from the actual sausages will make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan, and yeah, be good enough.
Excellent. So
we have our sausages cooking really nicely in here. As you can see, they're starting to brown. I'll tilt the pan a little bit, and you can see all the juice from the meat, from the sausage, from the ribs. All that fat is just coming right out of all the meat, and that's going to be a great basis for our gravy. All right, so our sausages are just finishing up right now, nice and brown. Kim, can you pass me the bowl, please? Thank you. So we're just going to take them right out of the pot, put them into the same bowl as our ribs, and then we're going to move on to veal. So I bought a pound of veal stew meat, and I chopped it up nice and small. We're just going to throw it right into the pot, and we're going to brown it just like the other meat. While this is browning, we are going to start opening up our tomatoes and just get them ready, because we're going to move on to the second phase of the Sunday gravy. Okay, so while the veal is simmering, we're going to start opening up our tomatoes. I opened up the tomato paste. This is one of the first things that we're going to throw into the pot after our garlic and onions are cooking. But, so I cracked open our whole peeled tomatoes, and we're just going to throw it in the blender.
So how many tomatoes do we need to use?
So I bought about 5 cans, and each of these cans are about a pound each. Yep, a pound, 12 ounces. And what we're going to do is we're just going to lightly chop them inside the blender. I'm personally a fan of having a little bit of chunk inside of my tomato sauce. I don't necessarily like it completely puree and smooth. So I'm going to turn on the blender, and we'll put it on chop. And that's it. Just a quick little pulse.
That's easy.
Very, very easy. And we're just going to do that for all the cans.
So where did you learn to cook?
So I actually learned to cook with my mom and my grandma. And basically, when I was growing up, my mom worked evenings and my dad worked during the day. So I was home with my sisters. We had a babysitter. And, my dad encouraged us to actually cook in the house. So we would make, simple things, chicken or tacos or things like that. And on Sunday, and it was tradition in our house to actually have our family Sunday dinner. And so at the heart of our family Sunday dinner was the sauce. And so that's where I learned how to make sauce. Now my recipe has changed over the years. I've learned how to make simple marinara sauce, and then really learn how to make the gravy. And the Sunday gravy is different between my parents and what my grandma makes, and sort of just trying to take the pieces from all of the great Sunday gravies that I've had and put them all together. And that's where I landed on this particular recipe.
I've had many of your Sunday dinners, and I can attest that it is fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so let's take a look at the veal and see how we're doing in here.
So why did you cook the meats in this order?
Well, it doesn't really matter what order. I particularly care. I like to cook the. I like to start off with the spare ribs because the ribs really they're nice and fatty, and so all the fat will start to come into the pan, and then move on to the sausages. I tend to like to do the veal last because the veal it's so lean it absorbs all of the fat that's in the pan, and you'll notice that it's not sizzling as much as it was when I was cooking the ribs and the sausages, and it just came down to like a low simmer.
Yeah, it's definitely absorbing all those good juices from the pork.
Yeah, and it's going to be good. The key to my Sunday gravy actually is the veal. This is something that I've added recently over the past 2 years to my sauce, and what happens is, since I cut them so finely, when the sauce is cooking and simmering over the next few hours, the veal will start to shred into the sauce, and that really gives it a real superb flavor that no amount of garlic powder and oregano can really do to make this sauce good. So
sounds delicious.
okay.